what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Ah yes, ain't that fresh? Everybody wants to get down like that. Wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. I wish I had a girl who looked good, I would call her. Wish I had a rabbit in a hat.
I thought my outfit was cool until I saw Joe step on stage. Hi, everyone. Salut. Bruce, watch out, I'm coming for you. I've seen your thing, and that looked pretty cool, and I thought I would try something like this. I am going to be talking about React, but this is not a React is better than Vue or Livewire talk, because it's not. It's also not really a technical talk. It's more of my journey into Laravel through React. So let's start with a cheesy hot take rage bait slide. I think React has a big problem, but the good news is it has a Laravel-shaped solution. See, I think that in many ways, Laravel makes React better. React the Laravel way. And by the way, pretty sure some of you have heard of Jeffrey Way. Make some noise if you have. Jeffrey has created, of course, Laracast, the best way to learn Laravel. And I'm very proud to announce that from the start of this year, I am a full-time instructor at Laracast. So thank you. I've done a bunch of courses. If you want to learn about React technically, I have a nice course there. There's another one coming about CSS, motion, animation, view transitions, the sort of stuff we talked about. And beyond what I do, there's a whole lot more content. There's 3 full-time instructors, a lot of guest instructors. Make some noise if you in the audience have a video on Laracast. I've seen many of you. I've seen you, don't hide. And so if you want to level up, now is a good time because Laracast has a 25% discount for new subscriptions until Sunday, although it might be Monday because it's Sunday in the US. So with that out of the way, let's get to the talk. I am fairly new to the Laravel ecosystem compared to you in the audience probably. See, I come from the JavaScript world. So I actually started with PHP, with Drupal and WordPress about 15 plus years ago, but for the past decade, I've been working mostly with JavaScript frameworks. Angular, Ember, React, Vue, I've used them all. And through jobs, I specialize with React. And most of the work I've been doing is design engineering, so front of the front end. I look after the markup that is semantic, like Charlie was saying. I work with designers to what you call a design engineer, or I like to call it design engineer. And if you were here last year on stage, I showed how I like to take my designing all the way to the browser and do prototyping directly in the browser. So if you think of what's involved in prototyping in the browser, newsflash, it's a lot of chaos. So you're going to try things, and obviously you're going to realize that you need to backpedal and pivot because you never land on the first try. And so the code that you write is going to be refactored, it's going to be moved around, it's going to be deleted, and it takes a special breed of coding patterns to sustain this basically malpractice. Over the years, I found and be pretty vocal about the fact that I think Tailwind CSS is exceptional for prototyping in the browser and being iterative. But I think React actually shares a lot of DNA and ergonomics that also makes it a really good tool for design engineers. So let's look at some of the parallels between the two. One of them is they both give you a rapid syntax that lets you speed run your prototyping. In Tailwind, you have strings of classes that you can string together in your HTML. You put some styles in your HTML. And React gives you something similarly triggering, which is what looks like HTML inside your JavaScript. So both of them really can stir some drama, and it looks like it's going against the separation of concerns. But I think behind the drama lies something very pragmatic, and you really can't understand it until you actually try it properly. So I've talked about Tailwind for years, but if you're not familiar with JavaScript, React, sorry, Let's take a look at some JSX. So here I'm exporting a function, and I'm going to write a div that looks like HTML, but behind the scenes, it's going to compile to JavaScript and make a call to a React.createElement function. So here the first argument is div, because it's the element type. And then we have null for now, because there is no props or attributes on that div. But if I was to add a data foo equals bar attribute, now you can see that the second argument in the create element has that object with the key value pair. And there's a third attribute that the create element function can take. It's a special property that goes between the opening and closing tags, and it's called the children prop. You can think of that as the slot in other frameworks or in Blade templates. Basically a place where you can nest something else. So instead of having just a string, you could have a more deeper structure, like an ordered list with 3 items. And at this point, it becomes quite apparent that it's more desirable to write what's on the left here, rather than handwriting this chain of nested React.createElement code. You write what looks like HTML, and you get HTML in the browser, which begs the question, why JavaScript and not HTML? And I completely agree with Charlie. If you don't need JavaScript, don't use it. Use HTML. But chances are, if you are using a JavaScript framework, you have some desire to do interactive stuff with JavaScript. And the idea here is to give you the full power of JavaScript for all your templating needs, for loops, conditionals, whatever you need to do. So if we look at loops, here we have an ordered list with a bunch of items, 2, 3, 4, 5.
6, 7! 6, 7!
Michael, it's easy. LaMelo Ball, doot doot, Skrillex. There we go. So here we obviously have a lot of repetition, yeah? And that would be nice to have some data we can loop through. So if you use something like Vue, Vue is going to very conveniently give you something really nice, a v-for, so every li items, you're going to loop over the data and then iterate over it. This is a TLA acronym, DSL, Design Specific Language. So Vue has to create and maintain this possibility, and every other templating needs is going to have to be supported. JSX takes the lazy route and says, dude, just use JavaScript. If you think about it, this is already all JavaScript. It just looks like HTML. So if we squint through the JSX transcriptions that I've showed you before, this sort of roughly then translates to an ordered list, and then inside of it, an array of nested React.createElement li items. So effectively, we have an array of strings, and we want to transform it into an array of React.createElement codes. If you use JavaScript, you can work with arrays. So if I start typing items, my code editor is like, it's an array, so I know you have all these methods available. And .map is pretty useful because you can transform every single item in an array. So here, instead of returning just a string, we are going to return an li with class names and the item as the value inside. So JSX gives you a simple way to create some markup, and on top of it, it layers another thing that's first party in JSX is the concept of components. Every function is actually a component, and you build your whole application by nesting components together. So if we wanted to take it a bit further here, instead of having an li in the loop, let's say we need an item component. We could define another function item. It needs to receive the item so that it can use it in the render. And so now that we've done that, we can go and replace the .map to use item with the uppercase I, which signifies this is the item component, React component, not just an element type. And we should have the exact same result. Just to verify, let's add some exclamation marks and see that it renders correctly in the browser. It does 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't say it.
I ain't gonna say it.
If we go back to the example of just before, I want you to note that there is something interesting here. There are multiple components or functions in the same file. This is a feature, not a bug. As a prototyping in the browser person, I just wanted to abstract my li item here just to not replicate too much stuff, but I'm not sure if I do want an item component. Being able to put it straight in the same file here, I think is nicer than having to create a dedicated item component or folder in my project, and then 10 minutes or 2 days later, I'm like, oh, we don't need this, scrap that. So it lets you build the whole app in one file if you want to do this, and then when you think it's time to promote, you can. And so for all these reasons, I think JSX is really good for design iteration in the browser, especially paired with Tailwind. By the way, if you ask an LLM to build something without any specification, it's very likely going to use React and Tailwind because of this collocation of concern. You can copy and paste the whole snippet. By the way, if you ask it to use Vue, it might still use React. And on top of all of this, React then overlays a simple mental model that I really like. If we look at our component tree from before, the arrows going down represent props. And this is how data is passed through in an application. Props can only go down, they never go back up, and they cannot change. So if you want to change the data in an application from somewhere below, you need to bubble up some sort of event with a callback function. And then it's going to change the state to the component that needs to, and then it's going to re-render, passing down the props back down. So this gives you this one-way data flow, props down, events up, which makes it quite easy to reason about a React application even as it scales. So I think for all these reasons, I think React's pretty good and a good tool for design engineers like me. So what's the big problem? I've been tongue-in-cheek here. This is probably my big problem with React rather than React's big problem. But it is that React is just the UI layer. And turns out you need a lot more to ship an application than just the UI layer. And React is pretty clear on this in the documentation. BYO, bring your own, all the rest. If you want to build a React app, we recommend using a framework. And React recommends a series of full-stack frameworks, or full-stack frameworks. And these are exceptional pieces of technologies. Next.js, React Router v7, 10-stack start. They're amazing, but they do feel a little bit like you have one circle where you can put client-side code, one circle where you have server-side code, maybe a bit of overlap, and from there, good luck drawing the rest of your app. And what I get told always is, Simon, use the ecosystem. There is so much greatness if you want an ORM, Prisma, Drizzle, pick whatever you want. There's so many packages to choose from. That is my big problem. The React ecosystem is big. And I mean, it's big. And to make it worse, it's amazing. How is that bad? There's so many talented developers that are pushing the industry forward and trying to make things you can do on the web better and better. And then there's all the funding that allows these people to go full-time on this research to advance what's possible. And while this is incredibly cool, I personally find it overwhelming. I feel like I need to keep up with every single possible way to do things and see how the landscape changes or else. And so this led me to do a bit of personal thinking and soul-searching over the past few years. Because on one side, I am super happy with where I am. I feel like I have a pretty successful career. I'm standing here on stage today, and I feel like with my skill set between design and development, I can help elevate a lot of engineering teams. But if I think a bit more selfishly on my personal side project, hobby projects, well, I realized I didn't really have any solo side projects. And if I'm perfectly honest, it's because I didn't know how to ship a solo React project being a front-end developer by myself. Not that I couldn't learn, but I just didn't know what to choose. And so here's what would happen. This is Star Athletics, my wife's athletics coaching business. And many years ago, I built her website for her, showcasing everything she has to offer. And I thought, or we thought, wouldn't it be cool if we could have a little portal where athletes can create some personal goals and store their results and then just kind of get some metrics to tailor the coaching from what they're doing. And so that sounds like a perfect use case for a solo side project. This is my wife's stuff. This is not her real job. This is a side gig for her. So it's low risk. And so I used this as an opportunity to try to draw my little server owl with a few different JavaScript full stack frameworks. Just to make sure, I tried a couple. And inevitably, I would get to a point where there's a little bit more of the owl that's drawn, but I'm still nowhere near shipping an application. And from here, it's like, bring you on all the rest. And so I would eventually run out of motivation or time and try another one. And if you repeat this process long enough, mind you, this is a side project, weekends or evenings for me, I ended up with this sort of what I would call an abandoned graveyard of projects. You might have one of on your folder as well. But again, this is a me problem, right? Pretty sure if I picked one and say, Redwood, whatever happens, I'm sticking to Redwood, and whenever I hit the hard problems, I continue learning just that one. But I don't think this is just me. I don't think the term JavaScript fatigue was invented for me. And React is at the forefront and at the core of JavaScript fatigue, in my opinion. So here I was, on the hand, successful and pretty happy in a team environment, working really well with dev teams, but then frustrated and pretty overwhelmed as a solo indie hacker, wishing that there was a way where I could have a full-stack React application that I can ship on my weekends and evening. And I know that you know a solution that's pretty good for that. But remember, I'm a JavaScript developer, and we try to do everything with JavaScript over there. Now, to my defense, if we squint in my graveyard, we shall find a trace of the word Laravel. Yeah, I dabbled, but I did with the preconception and the lens of a JavaScript React developer. Should I be learning PHP in 2020? Is this going to make my career move forward? Is this the right move for me? Also, as I was looking at the Laravel documentation, I saw this inertia thing. One of the first call-out phrases was, simply build controllers and page views like you've always done. It's like, I haven't always done that. And so I genuinely thought, okay, this is not for me. Let's move on. And then I saw you can use Laravel as a backend API for your JavaScript frontend. Yes, Next.js, this is what I'm going to try because I know Next.js, I can use Laravel, let's try that. And I actually really enjoyed the experience. The authentication with Sanctum was amazing, but there was a big frustration point for me pretty early. And it's the fact that, what do you mean there is no types carried over from the backend? Again, from the lens of a JavaScript world, when a Node.js or TypeScript project on the backend is set, the schema is defined in TypeScript. So every time the backend changes, it's ported over to the frontend. And we've heard Jess talk about this gap between TypeScript and PHP. And if you saw the Joe Tannenbaum's call talk at Laracon US, he also talked about this big gap. I think he even mentioned the elephant in the room. So between this and the sort of friction of me learning PHP or relearning PHP, I bailed out of this project again. And so I found myself back for another loop of the let's hope to find a TypeScript full-stack React project that I can ship apps with. And like all cyclical things, if you wait long enough, you might find yourself back to the start. And I did. Eventually, this itch and draw towards Laravel came back knocking at the door. And I was like, OK, this time, I need to really do some thinking. Who do I know personally close enough that I can reach to that ships stuff and walks the walks with Laravel stuff? And then I remembered I used to work with this Adam guy. yeah, the guy can ship all right. And I thought, oh, what? Let's try. I'm just going to message him on the random Sunday morning and said, we know that Adam had started doing React stuff for a while, so contextually that was really good for me to know. Dude, if you were to start a side project today, would you still pick Laravel? And Adam, incredibly generously, within 12 minutes on a probably Saturday night for him, said, yeah, dude, I love it. And actually, Tailwind UI is now a React frontend using Inertia, and I love it. This is the most productive combo. That Inertia thing that I had skimmed over, full-blown React frontend, this sounded suddenly pretty good to me. And so I guess it's that time of the year again. We are learning Laravel and PHP again, but this time with Inertia. And so I did the Laravel new command, and I chose the Breeze starter kit, as it was called back then, with React and Inertia. And within 4 minutes and 4 coffees of playing with it, I turned into that guy. I thought Inertia was just a server-side router that passes the data to the front end, but when I realized all the ergonomics on the front end, on React, my thing that I know and like stuff like polling, and by the way, a lot of this has changed with Inertia too. This is in 2023. I couldn't believe how cool this was, and I felt really silly for waiting this long. I'm saying this because as I was working with Adam, I was also working with Jonathan, the OG creator of Inertia. Jonathan was technically my boss, and we had one-on-one regularly. And I remember very clearly a specific one-on-one. I got so excited about Remix because, well, I told him, dude, I can write code that just runs on the server, so it never goes to the browser. I can get data from the database straight away, no need for APIs and calls and all this stuff. And then my front-end component has access to that data. This is incredible. And Jonathan very humbly just nodded along and smiled and was like, oh yeah, nice. Yeah, that's sort of what Inertia has been doing for a while. And I still didn't try it. Just that friction of the types not coming through and the PHP language was just enough for me to not try it. But now that I had finally tried it, it made total sense and I could see the trade-offs. I keep saying no types, but this is before Wayfinder and Ranger and all the things you've heard in these talks today. But this time I had tasted the fruit, and so I went all in. And within 9 days, maybe 2 weeks from that first try, I was 20 plus hours deep in Laracast on PHP Laravel 8, which was the version back then. And I remember as I binged on this lesson and felt more and more confident, this is what I should be doing, Aaron Francis released the same week his first technical video on his YouTube channel. It's called Laravel Has Everything, and it's a 34 minutes long video dedicated to drawing URL with Laravel. Basically all the stuff that it gives you to build a full stack application and ship it in a not overwhelming way. And so, with this newly found stack of Laravel, Inertia, and React, but again, you can replace React with Vue of Svelte if this is your flavor, I can build and ship solo apps. Remember my wife's project? It would be cool if it had a little backend portal where oh, nice. This is probably familiar to you in terms of UI. Now, I'm not going to show you children-sensitive data about athletic results, so instead, let's seed some data. So I'm going to have fake athletes with fake data and results. And once I've done that, I can now go and log in, and we can see that athletes have a track record of their training sessions, how long they train, how hard they felt. RP is like rate of perceived exertion. And then coaches can extrapolate some data, and are we overtraining? Are there places we can improve? And what I love is you can see the dynamic UI with React, which is my wheelhouse. But then now I'm logged in as Heather, which is a coach, and my wife. And so the access control is all taken care of. She's got access to reports and children's data. And everything feels so easy. Like Joe was talking, I can work in these verticals where I have an idea, I build the UI, I build the models, whatever needs on the back end, and everything follows through. So I don't have time to dive in too much code here, but at a very high level, and also Jess has showed you all the inertia, form component, that stuff. She showed you the Vue version, but React is exactly the same with a different syntax. But here I want to create a new goal, and I import the store action from Wayfinder, from the goals controller. This gives me the method and the URL, and so then I can use inertia's form component and just call the store function inside the action. Just doing this is going to be, OK, whenever you submit the form, I'm going to hit that endpoint. And from there, in the backend, we create a goal, and then we redirect to the newly created goal, and we say, haha, well done, little flash session message, goal created successfully. And because with inertia, in the handle inertia request, we are grabbing this session information and passing it to all the requests, that means anywhere in my front end, anywhere React component, I can just go grab that session if it exists, or the flash, sorry, with the use page hook from Inertia. And then if there's flash.success, when we successfully created the form, we use a little toast notification, and ta-da, it just outputs this. And this is done for the entire application. Whenever I want a notification, I just add a with and a little session message. I know for you, Laravel people, this is normal stuff, but for me, this is incredibly empowering how close the front and the back end is connected, again, in a solo dev environment. So to wrap things up, I just want to give a shout out to Inertia, to Jonathan who created it, and Joe Tannenbaum and all the people working on it at Laravel now, because I think the glue between the server and the client is short-sold. I don't know if it's a word. But I think it's really, as cheesy as it sounds, a bridge between communities. Look at me. I literally transitioned from JavaScript to PHP through Inertia. And hopefully this doesn't break the code of conduct, but the JavaScript and PHP worlds typically don't have much overlap. And they historically have taken friendly or not so friendly shots at each other, mostly due to a lack of understanding and also code snippets from a decade ago. As I'm sure you're very familiar with, it happens both ways. And I think like a tool like Inertia can really help people realize, wait a second, if we take our superpowers and connect them with their superpowers, actually, this is a really nice way to build full-stack applications in a way that's super simple to reason about and level up. Back to what React was saying in the docs, React is just the UI layer. You need to bring your own all the rest. I love that with Laravel, Inertia, and React, I can use React for the good parts. JSX, prototyping in the browser, component libraries, all the ecosystem. But then I can have Laravel help me draw the rest of the owl. And it turns out when you draw an owl with Laravel and Inertia, there is a coherent opinion and convention every single step of the way. React the Laravel way. Thank you.
Amazing. People need to know how you made your slides. What did you use?
Keynote, magic move. That's all you need to know.
I think this question probably warrants a different media, different format for you to answer well, because there's a bit behind it. But how did you become an instructor at Laracast, and what kind of got you from JavaScript developer to Laracast instructor?
This journey I told you, like especially the tipping point of learning Laravel properly was in 2023, so about 2.5 years ago. And since then, I really got out of my ways to make sure that I befriend people from the Laravel community. And I heard the story about Jess going from attendee to then speaker to then now being like a lead engineer at Laravel. And I feel like I followed a very similar approach. Michael invited me to speak in 2018 about Tailwind CSS, and Adam Wadden was in the audience. And I did my talk, And next thing you know, Adam hires me to be the DevRel of Tailwind CSS. And when that didn't pan out, I did other things. And then moving towards Laravel, Jeffrey Way said, hey, there's an open position for a Vue.js instructor. And I've learned everything from Jeffrey from day one. Literally on Tots Plus, 20 years ago, this is where I learned HTML, CSS, all of this. And I messaged him and I said, I'm not a Vue dev, I'm a JavaScript dev. I know I can learn Vue and I can teach it. I have plenty of videos on the internet to learn it. And he messaged me back. He said, hey, actually, that would be really cool if you want to do React stuff. This was exactly a year. I'm almost done. This was exactly a year ago. And I told him, he said, let's have a call. And I said, I'm speaking at Laracon AU last year. Can I just do the talk and then we hop on a call next week? And while, literally the day I did my talk last year, I went backstage and I looked at my email. And he said, Simon, you know what? I've seen plenty of you. I know what you do. I like your work. Here's an offer letter if you want to accept it. So this is how it happened.
Amazing. Now, you've been at Laracast about 10 months now. Have you learned React the Jeffrey way?
What I'm learning is teaching the Jeffrey way.
It's a good thing to learn.
As you probably see, I've spent thousands of hours on camera, on YouTube, on high profile, and when I step here, I crumble and I get super nervous. So learning from someone like Jeffrey probably helps me elevate my game. Now I need someone to teach me how to not panic on stage.
You did very well. Thank you again, Simon.
Thank you.